le Mosh Pit Punk Show entrevue. Salut tout le monde, on est avec Brent de Kingfisher. Hi Brent, how are you?
Good, Julian. Thanks for having me on.
Vous avez sorti plusieurs singles dernièrement.
Yep.
Vous avez sorti 3 singles for a new album.
Yep.
We don't know a lot about you.
Yeah.
On n'a pas entendu parler beaucoup de vous. Can you talk about your band?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the band started probably 2017, but mostly as a recording project between myself and Casey, who plays bass. I played in another band in Ottawa called In Heat. We were sort of a Motley Crue, kind of like real heavy 80s inspired rock band, but wanted to get back to my roots a little bit. So we started this as kind of a recording project. And after, I'm going to say 3 years, maybe 3.5 years, we had recorded maybe 40 songs, but we hadn't really done anything with them, you know? So we decided to see if we could put a full group together. And that was right when the pandemic started. Okay. So we had to kind of put it on pause and just kept recording remotely. But after we kind of got the ability to put things back together, Joe, who's the other, so we have 2 singers, and Joe, who's the other singer, he and I have been playing in bands together for many years. He had called me up to go and do a fill-in for a recording thing he was doing, and I mentioned this project to him on the side. So we put our heads together and found Dave, who's our drummer, and Casey had known him for a long time and played with him in the past, and we put it all together in, I guess, late fall, November 2021, I think, was when we had our first rehearsal. Okay. And by then we already had, like I said, 30, 40 songs recorded, rough versions. They weren't ready to be released, but then we started knocking them off, and then we started rehearsing, and things sounded real good. So we said, okay, well, let's do it as a full-time project. So we rehearsed enough to start playing shows, and we did the first show in May up in Ottawa.
Okay.
And we played a handful since then, put up some records. Like you mentioned, we got the 3 new singles this year, and we've got a bunch more coming this year. But yeah, it's just, we have this backlog of music that we're ready to put out, and we're just going to keep doing that until we run out of ideas, which is probably a long way down the road. So there you go.
Brent, vous avez sorti avec Kingfisher 3 excellents singles qui vont se retrouver sur le nouvel album. Est-ce que tu pourrais me parler du nouvel album? Can you talk about the new album?
Yeah.
How many songs will have on the album? Combien de chansons on va retrouver sur cet album-là? De quoi elles vont parler?
Okay. So we're going to do 12 songs on this record. And so I'm going to back up just a little bit. So last year we did 4-song releases, like EPs. And we thought it was going pretty good, but we found it a little hard to promote the individual songs when we were releasing so much at the same time. So what we decided to do was put ourselves on a schedule where we had all the material written, but we were going to release 1 song per month for the entire year of 2023. So we did the first one in January, which is Praying for More Pain. And then last month in February, we did The World Won't Fall Apart. And the one that just came out last week was Punk Rock Provocation, which was on March 31. And then the 4th song from the record will be coming out in late April. It's called Sync. We just finished laying the final parts down last week, so it's going to be ready to go probably in about 3.5 weeks. But the goal is by the time December rolls around, we'll be able to wrap this whole thing up as a full-length record. 12 songs, and then it'll all be combined, and we'll probably do a physical release at that point. Right now it's digital only.
Let the sun lay a path to your door. You won't die if you're down the road. The world won't fall apart. The world won't fall apart.
Brent, comment écrivez-vous les chansons? Quel est votre processus créatif?
Yeah, so the process has been, since we started this, is that I started as the idea guy, but then when Joe came on board, he's also an idea guy. We've always been at the front of our respective projects. So he started bringing about half the material, and I started bringing about half the material. But we show up to the group with like the skeleton of an idea, you know. And then what we do is we take that idea and let Casey put his stuff on it, let Dave put his stuff on it. We piece it all together, and instead of writing live so much, we actually prefer to record it and try to lay it down as a demo, and then learn from our own demo instead. Mm-hmm. And then lyrically, it's really whatever. I mean, we're not like the most socially conscious guys out there, I don't think, but I'll be honest with you, a lot of the material that's come out in the first year has been a comment on the kind of stuff that we're observing and seeing around. I mean, we're not young men anymore. We're all like old scene veterans, you know, old bulldogs. And we have a tendency, I think, to let that experience kind of color the things that we're singing about, right? Like we wrote a song last year that was actually written as an observation to that trucker convoy that came to Ottawa last February, if you recall, right? So we wrote a song just based on our observations of those types of things. So we're really seeing stuff that's happening around. And the most recent one, Joe actually wrote in response to Chris Hanna from Propagandy, who Joe's a very big fan of. It that was actually written as an open letter to Chris. So you know, like we're trying to touch on our roots a little bit when we're doing this stuff, but really everything is kind of we're not trying to be abstract, we're not trying to be complicated, we're just writing the stuff that we know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
J'ai fait des recherches, j'ai vu que vous n'êtes pas sur un label, vous êtes un band indépendant. Est-ce que c'est un choix que vous avez fait?
Mm-hmm. So to this point, it has been a choice. Yeah, I mean, we haven't necessarily received offers to sign with anyone, but when we started the band, Casey and I really had a like a plan, and our plan was to basically say, we're going to do this ourselves, and we're going to take it as far as we can by ourselves. And there's a lot of flexibility that gets built into doing things that way. You're not required to release things on somebody else's terms, on someone else's schedule. So we've done everything ourselves. All of the art and design was done ourselves. All of the recording we do completely by ourselves. So we've never hired anyone to do any of that stuff. We shoot all the videos ourselves. So all of that editing. The only thing we've done outside that we've farmed out outside of the group was actually producing the shirts. We don't have the ability to make the shirts ourselves, but we did all the art, and then we sent it off to a company in Kingston. They made it for us. So I think we're really happy doing things independently, and we'd be happy to continue. It's certainly not going to stop us if we're going to be independent long term. If the right offer came up, I think we'd probably consider it and listen to it. But really the critical thing for us at this point is making sure it fits with the way we want to do things, you know?
Is that a settled man inside you? Screaming out his punk rock heart till the day he dies. And anger is what guides us. Man calls upon us all compelled misery. Why? When and where and how we have we changed from boys to men? Who accept our veiled submissions? I hear you now like I heard you then.
Brent Kingfisher viennent à Montréal au Traxid le 28 avril. Vous nous avez teasé, on pourrait dire, avec vos singles. J'ai l'impression qu'il va y avoir beaucoup de monde qui vont vous voir. Quels sont vos plans après le show? Est-ce que vous avez des plans à court et moyen et long terme?
Yeah. So we booked a tour So we booked it to try to only play on Fridays and Saturdays because we find it's too hard for people to get out on like a Monday or Tuesday night, you know. So we're doing 7 shows in Ontario, and then we're coming to Montreal, like you mentioned, on April 28th. We're gonna do this again in the fall, probably in September or October. But I think we're gonna try to dip a little further into Quebec. I'd like to get down to Quebec City as well. We have some friends that did a big spin out east. They went all the way to Nova Scotia, which is probably a little further than I think we're going to go now, but eventually we get to that point. So in the long term, I think the plan is really going to be to say, get out and do as many shows as we can in the spring and in the fall. And then because we're busy guys and we all have our other stuff happening in our lives, we mostly take the summer to just rehearse and write songs. And then no one wants to travel in Canada between November and March because the weather is just awful. So typically we use that as a little downtime to rehearse and to get new songs ready to go. But come April or May, we'll be revved up. Ideally, we're into Montreal 2, maybe 3 times a year if the offers are there, and Quebec City for sure. And then, of course, Ottawa being where we're from, and it's not a very far drive from Montreal at all. So hopefully we'll get a bit of a following built up down there where people want to maybe take a spin up the highway for an hour and 20 minutes and come see us play in our hometown too, you know? So that's, and then just like I said, just keep things going for as many years as we've got left doing this stuff, which I think will be quite a few.
Ouais, parfait. On a hâte de vous voir. Puis on a hâte d'entendre aussi les nouveaux singles. Thank you to be with us.
Thanks for having me.
Merci d'avoir été là. Ça a été un plaisir. On garde contact. Puis, comme je disais, le Traxid le 28 avril. Puis, on surveille les nouvelles sorties pour les chansons du nouvel album qui sera en entier en janvier 2024.
Yeah, sounds good.
Merci.
Okay, yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Le Mosh Pit Punk Show, tous les mercredis 20h30 sur radiolpweb.com. Le lendemain, même heure sur punkrockradio.ca.